Welcome to Shul Machshava on the Daf. We're holding in Zevachim Daf Nun Gimel. The Gemara in the end of Mizbeach describes that the Mizbeach was built mainly on the chelik of Binyamin. But Yehuda, he had the one Amo in the east, the last Amo of the Mizbeach to the east, and he had a Ritzuah, some pathway that had the last Amo of the Mizbeach to the south, and that's why these two places there was no Yesod, because Yehuda does not have a Yesod. What is the idea? Why can there be a Yesod in the chelik of Yehuda? And in addition, why is Yehuda taking some part of the Mizbeach? As the Gemara says, the Binyamin is mitzvah, why he took that part. What is the pshat in that? So starting the Marashah and the Chidush HaGodos over here that explains that Yehuda is the Keser Malchus and the Beis Hamikdash is Keser Kehuna. Therefore, Yehuda can have no shaychus to the Kehuna. That's why there's no avoida that's done in his chelik. That's why he does not have a yesod, he doesn't have a chelik of the avoid of the karbonis. Now, even though from Binyamin there's also a melech, we know that Shaul was a melech, was the king, and he came with Sheva Binyamin. But it says the Marashah, but it wasn't a malchus nimsheches. It wasn't the malchus that remains in Am Yisrael. So therefore, Binyamin could have shaychus to the Keser Kehuna. One could add to this, the way Rabbi Tzadok says it, the difference between the Bnei Rochel, which is Yosef and Binyamin, and compared to Bnei Leo, which is mainly Yehuda, is that Yehuda has the level of Baal Tshuva. Baal Tshuva means it takes the bad and turns it into good, and that's the midah of Malchus. The Malchus is taking all the misnagdim, all the ones that are against, and bringing together to become one. But the midah of Bnei Leo is a tzaddik. They are the ones that do everything right. And Efshar, the Keser Kehuna, the Kohen, is the presentation of a tzaddik. So therefore, Binyamin belongs there more than Yehuda. The Maharal, in the first Chidush HaGodos on this Masechta, he seems to add another nekuda. The Maharal says something deep. He says that Yehuda is always considered to be the first one. He's the first Shevet, even though he's not the first one to be born, but he's considered to be first to many things. One of them is that Dekel Machne Yehuda was in the east, was in the Mizbeach, which is considered to be first. Binyamin is the opposite, he said. Binyamin is B'mayrov. Mayrov is considered to be the back. He adds the Maharal, even though when they were traveling, Dan was the Maasef, that's a different Nekuda, but in general, Binyamin is on the other side, he's the last one. So says the Maharal, we always know that the beginning and the end always connect together. The Maharal doesn't say these words, but that's the idea of Soif Maisev Machshavat Chilo. The Machshavat Chilo, the original plan, the beginning connects to the end. Can add to this that we always find that Binyamin is always, when a new era is about to come, Binyamin is the one who is the opener for that. When there's Malchus coming, so you have Shaul HaMelech to start the era of the Malchus of Beis David. And before we go into Baisheni, we have Mordechai Tzaddik from Binyamin, who is starting the era of Baisheni. And before Mashiach will come, comes Eliyahu Navi, according to Chazal says that because of Sheva Binyamin, that he also is going to be the opener to bring Mashiach. So that connects very well with what the Maharal says, that Binyamin is the end and Yehuda is the beginning. And before you have a new beginning, you have the end. The ends the previous Kufa. That's what Binyamin does. Says the Maharal, Eretz Yisrael, that's the source of the world. That's where the beginning and end of the world come together. That's why Yehuda is considered to be the beginning, and Binyamin is considered to be the end. They connect together in Yerushalayim. And he adds, Binyamin is the tachlis, is the end. That's what Beis Hamikdash is, because the ikar is to have the Mokam Gedusha of, that's the tachlis. Says the Maharal, that's the idea of the Ritzuah Yoitzo. Because Binyamin and Yehuda have to be completely connected. The Ritzuah Yoitzo is if there's a hug between the two chalakim, between the two borders of Binyamin and Yehuda. So the Maharal is telling us the reason why Yehuda cannot have the Mokam Avodah is because it belongs to Binyamin, which is the end, which is the Tachlis. That's what Beis Hamikdash belongs. But Yehuda is very much connected to it, and even takes a part of where the Mizbeach is because it's so connected, Yehuda, to Binyamin. The Ben Yoyada says another Nekuda. This connects to this week's Parasha Vayero, to the Akedah Yitzchok. The Ben Yoyada says that in the time of the Akedah, Avraham Avinu says, Behar Hashem Yiroi. Yiroi is Lashon Aryeh, lion, and that represents Yehuda. And that's the reason the Gemara tells us in Yuma that the fire in the Mizbeach looked like a lion to remind us of Yehuda. And that's the reason you have a ritzu of Yehuda going into the Chelik of Binyamin. The Makam Mikdash belongs to Binyamin. But because there is a place for Yehuda in the Mikdash, the Aryeh, the Hashem Yoreh, that's why there's some ritzuah, there's some kind of pathway where Yehuda enters into the Chelik of Binyamin. And just to conclude, as the Gemara tells us, the reason Binyamin was zoiche so much for the Shechina is because he wanted it so much. And as the Farshah point out, what do you mean he wanted it? He was already destined to have Beis HaMikdash. So it's brought down even the Vilna Gaon and others. The Binyamin was zoiche to have Beis HaMikdash, not only Beis HaMikdash Rishon, but also Beis HaMikdash Sheni, and also Beis HaMikdash Shlishi. It always stays in the Chelik of Binyamin. So Beis HaMikdash belongs over there, and Yehuda just penetrates because the reason that we mentioned. Anyone who wants to join and respond to the Shom HaShavah Shiurim, please email shomhashava@gmail.com.